Good day, subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am Jeremy. This is the Financial Education Channel, and today we're doing stock market weekly recap number 25 ever in history, guys. We are recapping the July 14th, 2017 week. We're going to look at what the markets did this week, some stocks that went up and down the most. We are going to look at what happened this week as far as the biggest news stories go, in my opinion, and we're also looking at what we have going on next week, guys. So we're going to get into all that. First off, before we get into that, I have started an Instagram account. You could be the first one to join, maybe, potentially. There are no followers yet. I literally just opened it. It's called Financial Education Jeremy, and that is the account, guys. So if you want to follow me on there, I'll probably do some stuff similar to what I do on Snapchat, which is like post when I'm looking at an article, you know, or if I'm looking at stocks, like what my stocks did that day, or what the markets did in general. Like I post a lot of Snapchat. Sometimes if I just feel like giving my opinion on a subject that I don't feel like talking about on this channel, like making a whole video about it, it's just something quick, I do posts like that. Like if you follow me on Snapchat, you kind of know what I do there. So I'm going to do something very similar to that on Instagram. And so if you want to follow me, you can go ahead and follow me, guys. Those are my two focuses outside of YouTube, is Snapchat and Instagram. So check me out if you want, guys. Let's go ahead and get right into this. So Dow Jones this week had a very good week, up over 1% this week, very solid. NASDAQ tore it up this week, guys. Look at that 5-day change, up over 2.5% this week. Absolutely phenomenal week for the NASDAQ. S&P 500 was up 1.4%, also very strong. So once again, it seems like every time the markets go up a good amount like they did this week, right? It seems like the NASDAQ just way outperforms everything, and that's exactly what happened again this week, guys. NASDAQ way outperformed the S&P and way outperformed the Dow. Why do I knock this damn thing over every video? Let's look at some of these stocks that went up and down the most this week. NRG Energy went up over 43%. They're supposed to do a transformation of the company and whatnot, up over 43% this week. Very strong. Hertz Global Holdings, I feel like this one's always either on the upside or downside. This one went up over 30% this week. Look at that. This stock's still down almost 30% year to date after a 30% gain this week. That's when you know you're having a rough year. Vips Holdings, which is one of the biggest e-commerce plays in China. This stock went up almost 12% this week. Very strong week. Square went up over 11% this week. Look at the year to date on Square, up 93% year to date. Why did I wanted to buy that one so bad and I never did. I should have pulled the freaking trigger. Twitter went up about 9% this week. So Twitter is actually having a decent year. You look at the year to date there, it's up over 20% now for Twitter. So very interesting. Now let's look at the downside here. Abercrombie and Fitch went down almost 27% this week. I remember like in middle school, in high school, like the cool kids, you know, they all wore Abercrombie and Fitch clothing. Like you were a cool kid if you wore that type of clothing. I never had that brand, damn it. Why did my parents buy me that? It must have been too expensive back then. Now they're probably trying to clearance all those clothes. Look at that. So Snapchat this week was also on the downside. We talked a bit about Snapchat this week. That stock was down over 11% this week. Maui Land and Pineapple Company. This stock's on the list almost every week, but usually it's always on the upside part of the list. This week, finally, it had a bad week. This week, it went down almost 13% this week. But look at that. Even after a bad week like that, it's still up 178% year to date. Absolutely amazing. So, guys, those are what the markets did this week, some of the stocks that went up and down the most. Let's go ahead and let's look at some of the biggest news stories this week. So, the first one that caught my attention was Amazon Prime Day. Absolutely phenomenal numbers out of this. Amazon didn't disclose a dollar figure, but said its sales grew 60% over last year's Prime Day. So it's amazing a company like Amazon can basically almost create its own like holiday. It's like Amazon's created their own almost like Black Friday, guys. It's absolutely amazing what they can do. And I wish they shared numbers, like specific numbers, like we did $3 billion in revenue yesterday or $1 billion or whatever, because that would be fun to just see what type of dollar amount amount they're doing on that Prime Day, but obviously up 60%. Like, that's insane, guys, absolutely insane. Another Amazon story caught my attention this week is a House member is urging Congress to hold a hearing to analyze Amazon's proposed $14 billion acquisition of Whole Foods, a merger that critics say could cramp innovation and hurt workers. The deal could affect grocery stores, obviously, and consumers nationwide. Representative David Silikine, or whatever his name is, top Democrat in the House Subcommittee on Regulatory Reform, Commercial and Antitrust Law, warned Thursday in a statement. This is his quote: "Congress has a responsibility to fully scrutinize this merger before it goes ahead. Failing to do so is a disservice to our constituents." That's end quote. Now, my take on this is, you know, and as much as, yes, everybody should absolutely be scared of Amazon when they come in your territory, but the fact is Amazon hasn't proven it's going to take over the food industry or something like that. Like, in my opinion, most of these situations, especially something like this, like imagine how many grocery stores. It's one thing if a company's trying to take over another company and there's like only a few players in that industry, right? So like if AT&T wanted to all of a sudden buy Verizon, like that absolutely should be looked into, because you only have a few phone carriers to even pick from out there. But grocery stores, like, you know how many different grocery stores and different grocery store brands are all around the United States of America? Like I don't even think this, in my opinion, should be something to be looked into. I just don't think it's worth the time. I think, you know, if Amazon ever got to that point where they're like a monopoly in the grocery store game or in the food space, then you can break it up at that time, like, you know, but let them prove that first. There's so many options out there. You know, yeah, is it something to be scared of? Yes, but is it something like, oh, this is, you know, the end for everybody? Absolutely not, guys. You know, it just makes a competitive landscape more competitive, and in the end, it should just make things better for consumers, right? Because if Amazon's going to really succeed in groceries, they're going to have to either provide a more convenient experience or lower prices, which are both going to benefit consumers in the end. So, guys, that's kind of my opinion there. If they ever got to the point where there's monopoly in the food game or something, then you break them up at that point. But right now, it's like, who's to say they are? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. It's nothing's proven out there, guys. Next story that caught my attention is Apple. Apple's in the news this week. Isn't not such good news here. So the iPhone 8 could be delayed by at least a month as Apple faces technological issues with wireless charging and 3D face recognition. Apple is having issues with the software in wireless charging and 3D recognition. Some claim that the iPhone 8 could even launch without these features. Handset should be announced still in September, but it could go on sale. They're talking about maybe not even going on sale till November, which would be way late in the game. All this, probably not a huge deal for Apple in the long term, right? In short term, it could absolutely affect earnings for Apple's Q3 and Q4, but as far as like long term, like, you know, if somebody's gonna buy an iPhone 8, you know, if they have to wait another month, it's not like they're going to jump to another, you know, carrier or something. It's something like, if you really want an iPhone, you're going to wait for that iPhone, or you'll just buy another iPhone, the iPhone 7 or whatever at the end of the day. It's not like you're just going to switch brands. Like, when you're loyal, you're loyal. That's whether you're loyal Samsung or Apple or whatever, unless somehow one of those companies won you over or something like that, guys. But something I think is interesting out of this is, if they're having an issue with, and a lot of these reports are probably correct, they're rumors technically, because no one's, you know, come out and commented, but generally with Apple, like, if it's a rumor, it's probably more than likely true, especially if it's from many sources, because it's so big nowadays that it's so hard to hide. So if they're having trouble with wireless charging, that's interesting to me, because this is something that Samsung's had for what, over a year now? Something, you know, Samsung's had integrated in their products for, I think, over a year, wireless charging. So if that's something Apple's still having troubles with, like, that just, you know, just makes me more amazed, I guess, at Samsung and some of the things they're doing over there, just because they've already had this for a while now. And if Apple's still having issues, it's like, wow, with all that talent at Apple, all those, you know, talented employees, you can't figure that out like that. That stuff amazes me. So the next story here, the mystery behind OPEC's meeting with shale oil producers. So the Secretary General of OPEC, Mohammed Barkayando, I'm the worst at pronouncing names, said today that the cartel he oversees has broken the ice in reaching out to shale producers in the U.S. So basically, you know, there's a mystery behind this. It's not much mystery to me. It's probably something along the lines like, hey dudes, can you stop producing so much damn oil over there in America? Because if it could all benefit if oil prices go up, because oil prices are what, at $40-something a barrel right now? Super low right now. Like, you know, OPEC would really like those oil prices to be above 70. That's a long way from where we're at right now, guys. So I can guarantee you OPEC's trying to, you know, talk to them, say, hey, maybe you can cut production a little bit. Maybe what if we cut production a little bit, you know, get these prices back up, because, you know, a lot of those OPEC countries are heavily reliant on oil at the end of the day. They're heavily reliant on oil to make their whole system work, because they're very heavily oily. Oh, that was a total bad rhyme there. Very heavily oil reliant is what a lot of those countries are over there. So, you know, it's interesting to see. But whether the shale producers actually do anything in cut production, I don't think they will, unless, you know, oil prices stay super low or things like that. But as soon as they come up, everybody and their great grandma wants to start drilling oil, because they know there's so much profit you can make out of it, you know, when it's $70+ a barrel at that point, guys. This story we kind of already talked about. We already talked about Snapchat earlier in the week, so we're not going to dig into this. I just found this chart, which I wish I would have found when I did my Snapchat video. Snapchat and Facebook stock decline following IPO. Look at this chart here, guys. So that top line is Snapchat, bottom line is Facebook there. Look at how much those ones remind you of, you know, look at how much Snapchat reminds you of Facebook in terms of the stock price decline. That doesn't mean, you know, Snapchat's going to be the next Facebook and it's going to rise to all-time highs or something like that. That's just, I find it interesting that, you know, two of the most hyped social media, you know, darlings ever to come out on the street, just absolute pathetic performances for IPO. Like, Facebook's probably the worst big IPO I've ever seen. I've never seen an IPO so bad as Facebook. Never, as far as a highly hyped one. And then you look at Snapchat, it's hanging in there with you know, Facebook. Look at how that chart is just dropped and dropped and dropped there, guys. So very interesting stuff. Now, what do we have for next week? So finally, it is earnings season, guys. It is earnings season. I am super psyched because this is Q2 earnings season. We finally are getting back in the swing of things. I hated the last few weeks when there was hardly any earnings. I love the action. I love the action. So some of the stocks I will be keeping an eye on. There's tons of companies reporting this week, but these are a few I'll be keeping a track of. IBM's reporting numbers, Goldman Sachs is reporting numbers, Goldman Sachs is reporting numbers, Qualcomm is reporting numbers, we have eBay reporting numbers, American Express reporting numbers, and lastly, Microsoft reporting numbers. So I will be checking out all those companies, seeing how their earnings come out and whatnot, guys. Let me know if there's any other companies that are reporting earnings that you're keeping an eye on. I know it's ridiculous how many companies are reporting next week, guys. So busy earnings season. That's what I love. I love the action. I love to see what's going on out there, and, you know, see which companies are really succeeding, which ones aren't succeeding so much. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this today. If you just came across this channel, you may want to subscribe. We talk personal finance on the channel. We talk entrepreneurship. I'm an actual business owner. I give away so many business tips. We talk stock market investing more than anything, and we do this series every single week. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great day.